Give me a note. 45 minutes. Assalamu alaikum. نحمده ونصلي ونسلم على رسوله الكريم أما بعد أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم إن الله وملائكته يصلون على النبي يا أيها الذين آمنوا صلوا عليه وسلموا تسليما اللهم صل على سيدنا ومولانا محمد وعلى آل سيدنا ومولانا محمد وأصحاب سيدنا ومولانا محمد وبارك وسلم صلاة وسلام عليك يا سيدي يا رسول الله وعلى آلك وأصحابك يا سيدي يا حبيب الله. We concluded last time a section on various different types of nafil prayers. I think the last one was Salatul Istisqa, whether there is a prayer for seeking rain or not. We discussed that, and the dua for seeking rain and seeking water from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So the next section that we're going to move on to is Sujood al-Sahw, prostrations of forgetfulness. So the first thing that Imam Sagharji rahimahullah ta'ala he discusses in this section is about forgetting in your prayer, and forgetting as in number of units. So if you're praying and you forget how many units you've prayed, what should you do in that situation, and what the ahadith tell us about that situation. And the first narration, first section, as I mentioned, man shakka fi salatihi, whoever has a doubt in his prayer, but this doubt is regarding number of units. And he narrates first of all from Ata bin Yasar, and he's one of the great scholars, and he says that قال سألت Abdullah ibn Amr bin As, he says that I asked Abdullah bin Amr bin As radiallahu ta'ala and Ka'b al-Ahbar, both. Ka'b Ahbar is a prominent tabi'i. He was alive in the time of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. He's one of the prominent scholars of the Ahlul Kitab, but he didn't accept Islam until the time of Sayyidina Umar radiallahu ta'ala. So he's not, although he was alive in the time of the Prophet ﷺ, he's counted as being amongst the Tabi'een, not amongst the Sahaba. But anyway, he says, Imam Ata, he says that I asked these two what they think about, what their view was regarding somebody who forgets during his prayer. فَلَا يَدْرِي كَمْ صَلَّى, he doesn't remember, or he doesn't know what he's prayed, or whether his prayer is completed or he has any units remaining. And so he said that what is your opinion about somebody who forgets in his prayer? فَلَا يَدْرِي كَمْ صَلَّى, he doesn't know how much he's prayed. أَثَلَاثًا أَمْ أَرْبَعًا, whether he's prayed 3 or 4. فَكِلَاهُمَا قَالَ, both of them replied, and their response was the same. Their response was that he should pray 1 more unit, and then he should do 2 ثُمَّ يَسْجُدُ سَجْدَتَيْن وَهُوَ جَالِسٌ, he should do 2 sajdas when he's sitting. And so when he's sitting, that would mean after completing the final sitting, after the tashahhud, after the final tashahhud or qada akhira. And that's how and where we do sajda sahw. That particular narration is narrated by Imam Malik in his Muwatta. Similarly, we have another narration which is narrated by Ibrahim al-Nakh'i regarding somebody who forgets during his prayer. And he says regarding a person who doesn't remember whether he's prayed 3 or 4 units. So he's come to a point in the prayer where he's doubtful as to whether he's prayed 3 or 4. Does he need to stand for the 4th unit, or does he need to complete his prayer? So his response was, if this is the first time that he has forgotten, a'ad as-salah, he should repeat his prayer. And by first time, not necessarily, exactly the first time, but if this is something infrequent, it rarely happens. He doesn't usually suffer from any kind of doubt or in terms of his memory or any other problem. This is very rare for that person, or it's the first time that it's happened. Then that person should repeat his prayer. But however, وَإِنْ كَانَ يَكْثُرُ النِّسْيَانِ, if he is somebody who frequently suffers from this kind of forgetfulness, then he should يَتَحَرَّ الصَّوَابِ, he should do taharri. Now taharri is making an educated guess or a judgment. And so he should think for a moment, and basically means there's only 2 options, that he's either prayed 3 or 4. Whichever side his heart and mind is more content with, is leaning more towards, he should go with that. So if he is more confident that he has completed his prayer, then he should, or if he's more confident that he's prayed 4 units, then he should complete his prayer, do the tashahhud, and he should then do sajda of sahab. And so this position, Rawahul Imam Muhammad fil Athar, Imam Muhammad rahimahullah ta'ala, he's narrated this in Kitabul Athar, and he has said that this is our opinion, وَبِهِ نَأْخُذُ, that this is what we act upon, وَهُوَ قَوْلُ Abi Hanifa, and this is the opinion of Imam Abu Hanifa rahimahullah ta'ala as well. So what's that? That if the doubt is between 3 and 4, right, so basically that whether the prayer is complete or there's a unit missing, in that case, if somebody is experiencing this first time or infrequently, then he should repeat his prayer. He should pray again. And if it's frequent occurrence, then he should go with his own judgment, and if he needs to add another unit, that's fine, but at the end of it, in either situation, at the end of his prayer, he should do sajda of sahw.
So when you say, for example, if you read 2 units, you're about to read the 3rd one, and you remember that you forgot to read certain, do you complete that prayer, or just and then start and then repeat that prayer again, or how?
Yes.
So you complete that prayer that you're praying, and then you read it again.
Yes.
Okay.
Sayyidina Abdullah ibn Mas'ud radiyallahu ta'ala, he says, إِذَا شَكَّ أَحَدُكُمْ فِي صَلَاةٍ, when any one of you has doubt regarding his prayer, فَلَا يَدْرِي ثَلَاثًا صَلَّى أَمْ أَرْبَعًا, and he doesn't remember, he doesn't know whether he's prayed 3 or 4 units, فَلْيَتَحَرَّ, then that person should make an educated judgment. And he should look at his dominant opinion. And again, by that it means what he's leaning more towards. If his dominant opinion is that he's prayed 3 units, qama, he should stand, فأضاف إليها الرابعة, he should add then a 4th unit to it. ثم تشهد, then he should do tashahud, and فسلم, he should do salam, and he should then do 2 sajdas of sahv, of forgetfulness. If his dominant opinion is that he's prayed 4 units, then there's no need to add anything else to it. Then he should just complete his prayer with the final sitting, with the tashahud, do salam, and then, but still he should do sajda of sahv, of forgetfulness. But in either situation. So this is identical to what we've covered before. Only difference is, in this one, it doesn't mention about what, whether if this is a regular occurrence for him, or whether it's the first time or it's a rare occurrence. That difference is not mentioned here. Imam Muhammad rahimahullah ta'ala, he narrates this in Kitab al-Athar as well. But he adds here, he does say, وَبِهِ نَأْخُذْ, that this is what we take as an opinion, this is what we follow. Illa, except for that we say that it's mustahab. إِذَا كَانَ ذَلِكَ أَوَّلُ مَا أَصَابَهُ, if this is the first time that this has happened to him, then he should, and يُعِيدُ الصَّلَاةِ, he should repeat his prayer. So even there, Imam Muhammad rahimahullah ta'ala, he does say that in our opinion, the Hanafi madhab, yes, this is correct, that he should, if he feels that he's read 3, he's more inclined towards that, then he should stand up, read a 4th unit and do sajda sahab at the end. And if he feels he's read 4, then he should just finish off and still do sajda sahab in both situations. But that we also say that if this is the first time or it's a rare occurrence, then he should repeat his prayer. It's narrated from Sayyidina Abdullah bin Ja'far radiyallahu ta'ala. Abdullah bin Ja'far radiyallahu ta'ala anhuma narrates from the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. This is now directly from Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Man shakka fi salatihi, whoever has any doubt in his prayer, fal yasjud sajdatayn wa huwa jalis, he should do 2 sajdas when he's sitting. Again, that's referring to the end of the last sitting. And in one narration it does say فَلْيَسْجُدْ سَجْدَتَيْنِ بَعْدَمَا يُسَلِّمْ, he should do 2 sajdas after he's given salam, after he said salam. So that tells you when as well. And those narrations are taken from Al-Fath al-Rabbani. We have that instruction from the, previously it was just instruction and guidance from Sahaba and Tabi'een. There we have instruction from the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam as well, that if someone forgets a number of units during the prayer, they should do sajda of sahab after the last sitting, after saying salam. And there's another narration from Sayyidina Abdullah bin Mas'ud radiyallahu ta'ala, which mentions that a person who forgets number of units during the prayer, he should do 2 sajdas, 2 prostrations of forgetfulness, sajdas of sahv, ba'da taslim, it specifies after salam. To complete the tashahud, say salam, and then do sajda of sahv. And he also narrates that the Prophet ﷺ did sujood of sahw in this manner after salah. So he narrates the Prophet ﷺ's own action to be this as well. And that's taken from Sunan of Imam Daraqutni. Also in another narration from Sayyidina Abdullah bin Mas'ud radiyallahu ta'ala, he narrates that Salla Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam fa zada aw naqasa. The Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam led a prayer, and he either missed a unit or prayed an extra unit. فَلَمَّا سَلَّمَ, when he finished and said salam, قُلْنَا, we said, Ya Rasulullah sallam, has something new been added to the prayer? In other words, has the prayer changed, the format of the prayer? Has it changed? And so from here you can see that the Sahaba, number one, out of respect, they didn't say anything, they didn't alert the Prophet ﷺ during the prayer. They waited, but also in their minds that the Prophet ﷺ was in constant connection with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. There was always the possibility that even during the prayer the Prophet ﷺ had received revelation, because remember, this is not unprecedented. Can you think of a precedent for that? Revelation during the prayer. Anybody?
When they changed the Qibla.
Yes, the changing of the direction of the Qibla, and that happened during the prayer. Prophet ﷺ was praying. He prayed half of his prayer facing Baitul Maqdis, and then the revelation, and then the Prophet ﷺ changed the Qibla. So that possibility as well, that perhaps the prayer, the format has been changed. So they didn't say anything. But the Prophet ﷺ then responded. He said, if the format of the prayer had changed, I would have informed you, I would have alerted you, I would have let you know. وَلَكِنِّي إِنَّمَا أَنَا بَشَرٌ. The Prophet ﷺ said, I am human, and I forget the way that you forget. And so if any one of you forgets during his prayer, he should make an educated judgment, or an educated guess. He should think about it and try to settle on his own dominant opinion. He should then complete his prayer based on that opinion. Then he should say salam, and then وَلْيَسْجُدْ سَجْدَتَيْنِ, he should then do 2 sajdas of forgetfulness or something. That's narrated by Imam Nasa'i in his Sunan. There's a different narration, an alternative narration, which is narrated by Imam Malik rahimahullah ta'ala in his Muwatta. And I just want to mention that here because some people have issues obviously with this text. They raise issues around it, and even for example Surah Kahf, the last verse of Surah Kahf, قُلْ إِنَّمَا أَنَا بَشَرٌ مِثْلُكُمْ يُوحَى إِلَيَّ أَنَّمَا إِلَهُكُمْ إِلَهٌ وَاحِدٌ, where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala commands the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, say, O Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, I am a bashar like you. Even though almost any tafsir that you pick up will tell you, and you can try this, it will say, إِنَّمَا أَنَا بَشَرٌ مِثْلُكُمْ, I am a human like you. Fi surah, in physical appearance. And almost all Mufassirs have written that. But people will insist on making an issue out of this and propagating false and rather derogatory beliefs about the Prophet ﷺ. So I don't want that hadith to leave any questions in your mind. The hadith of a similar incident narrated by Imam Malik rahimahullah ta'ala in his Muwatta, it's in the chapter on Sahv, on Sajda of Sahv in the Muwatta, and hadith number 2 in that chapter. The hadith is, the Prophet ﷺ said on such an occasion, I am made to forget. So I forget, or I am made to forget. Why? A sunnah, so that I can make a sunnah, I can establish a sunnah for you. Not only, there's 2 reasons why I've mentioned that there for you. Because not only is it this issue about, bashar like you, that's very easily resolved. And if you pick up the Quran, you search for all the verses in which any of the prophets have said anything like this, or where it mentions in the Quran with reference to prophets and messengers of Allah, these kind of statements, you will see in the entire Quran that these statements were always made by disbelievers. You are just a bashar like us. What kind of a prophet and messenger are you? You eat food and you drink and you walk in the markets like us. These are all verses in the Quran, but they're all with reference to disbelievers. You will never find a Sahabi, a companion of the Prophet ﷺ, trying to draw a comparison between himself and the Prophet ﷺ. In fact, you find the exact opposite. You will find the exact opposite. But that's a very simple issue to deal with anyway. But then this could also give rise to the issue of, if the Prophet ﷺ is, forgets just like anybody else, then is there a possibility of forgetfulness with the Quran, with Wahi, with other commands of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? So this is why it's important to remember this narration as well. The Prophet ﷺ saying that I am made to forget. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala makes me forget. Why? So that I can establish a sunnah for you. If the Prophet ﷺ didn't forget during that prayer, how would we know what to do when we forget in our prayer? So the Prophet ﷺ himself clarified that he's made to forget, and why. Right, so I've given you the reference for that particular hadith as well. That then brings us on to, if somebody, ashakku ba'd al-insiraf, if somebody has doubt in their prayer after salam, so he's completed the prayer, he's exited the prayer, and then he has some kind of doubt. So, Ibrahim al-Nakha'i, again, he says that when you forget, when you have completed your prayer and you turn away from your prayer, and you have some kind of doubt, فَأَرَضَ لَكَ شَكْ, it could be fi wudu, or salah, or qira'ah, it could be regarding, did I have wudu or not, was my qira'ah okay, or was it sufficient or not, did I read, complete all the units or not, any of this kind of doubt that starts to occur after completion of the prayer. Once the prayer has finished, then فَلَا تَلْتَفِتْ, don't go towards it. In other words, ignore it. Don't pay attention to it. Yes, if you remember, there's a difference between doubt and remember. It's possible that you pray and then you remember, I didn't have wudu. That's something different. If you remember with certainty and you prayed salah forgetfully without wudu, and you remember after completing the prayer, I didn't have wudu, then that's different. But doubts, this is a form of waswasa, and so that should be rejected. Because if it's certain, if you're recalling with certainty, then you need to repeat the prayer. Because then essentially your prayer was invalid, it didn't even begin, and so you need to repeat the prayer. But if it's doubts, and then this is a form of waswasa, and it needs to be quashed right there. And that's narrated by Imam Muhammad in Kitab al-Athar again. And again he says, وَبِهِ نَأْخُذْ وَهُوَ قَوْلُ أَبِي حَنِيفَةَ rahimahullah ta'ala, that this is what we act upon, and this is the opinion of Imam Abu Hanifa rahimahullah ta'ala. Next thing, ترك القعود الأول في الفريضة. If you miss the first sitting, first tashahhud in any fard prayer. Abdul Rahman bin Hurmuz, he narrates from Abdullah al-Azadi. He is a Sahabi, he is a companion of the Prophet ﷺ. So he narrates from Abdullah al-Azadi radiyallahu ta'ala, وَكَانَ مِنْ أَصْحَابِ النَّبِي صلى الله عليه وسلم, and he was from amongst the companions, the Sahaba of the Prophet صلى الله عليه وسلم. أن النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم صلى بهم الظهر. The Prophet صلى الله عليه وسلم led them in Zuhr Salah. He led the congregation for Zuhr Salah. فقام في الركعتين الأوليين لم يجلس. The Prophet صلى الله عليه وسلم stood up after the first two units without sitting. Lam yajlis, he didn't sit, he missed, in other words, the first sitting. فَقَامَ النَّاسْ مَعَهُ, and so the people stood with the Prophet ﷺ, they stood up. حَتَّى إِذَا قَضَى الصَّلَاةِ, until when he'd completed the prayer, the people waited for the Prophet ﷺ to say salam, and then the people, they said takbir, Allahu Akbar, while the Prophet ﷺ was still sitting. فَسَجَدَ سَجْدَتَيْن, the Prophet ﷺ then did two sajdas, and then he did salam after the sujood of sahab as well. So this is an incident where the Prophet ﷺ missed the first tashahhud, the first sitting. That's narrated by Imam Bukhari in his Sahih. And there's an interesting statement of Sayyidina Abu Bakr Siddiq radiyallahu ta'ala. This is something that's narrated by Data Ali Hajwari rahimahullah ta'ala, also known as Data Gani Bakhsh, Data Sahib, whose Mazar is in Lahore, one of the earliest, possibly if not the earliest, of the Sufiya to come into the subcontinent. He narrates in Kashful Mahjub about the Prophet ﷺ's return journey from the Mi'raj, the ascension, that the Prophet ﷺ showed some reluctance in returning, and so Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said to the Prophet ﷺ, asked the Prophet ﷺ, and he explained that I don't want to walk away from these blessings that I've been granted this night, and the blessings and barakat that I find myself enshrouded in. And so Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala then said to the Prophet ﷺ, he said, you must go for the sake of your ummah, but I will give you a gift, the gift of salah, such that whenever you feel that you want to experience these blessings again in the dunya, say Allahu Akbar and enter into the prayer, and you will find yourself immersed in these same blessings. This is the status of the salah of the Prophet ﷺ. Do remember this as well, that yes, the Prophet ﷺ is made to forget, to establish the sunnah, but also, na'udhu billah min zalik, astaghfirullah al-azim, when we forget, where Allah knows where our minds are wandering and what we're thinking of, which causes us to forget. We can't even begin to imagine the kind of blessings that the Prophet ﷺ is enshrouded in when he's praying, and the kind of ranks that he's ascending. We can't even begin to imagine what kind of blessings they are that result in the Prophet ﷺ forgetting during his prayer. And this is why there's a statement of Sayyidina Abu Bakr Siddiq radiyallahu ta'ala, Ya laytani kuntu sahwa Muhammadin sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, where he says, I wish if only I was a moment of forgetfulness of the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. If you don't know that background, it doesn't really make sense. How can, why would he want to be a moment of forgetfulness? How can you be that moment? But what he's saying there is exactly what I've told you, that even the normal prayer of the Prophet ﷺ is such that he is promised those same blessings that he experienced on the night of Mi'raj during his prayer. And imagine then what kind of blessings he would be experiencing that cause him to forget. That is the means by which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala makes him forget. And that's the wish of Sayyidina Abu Bakr Siddiq radiallahu anhu to, that if there was some way of experiencing those particular blessings. That's why he says, I wish I was a moment of forgetfulness of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Anyway, I just thought it's interesting because it sort of relates to our discussion here as well. So, the next thing, saying salam at the end of 2 units. Sayyidina Abu Hurairah radiyallahu ta'ala, he says, the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wasallam, on one occasion, and the Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam insarafa min isnatayn, the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wasallam turned after having prayed only 2 units. فقال له ذو اليدين, this companion who is known by this name Dhul Yadain, he said, he asked the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he said, O Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, has the prayer been shortened or have you forgotten? So he asked the Prophet ﷺ because the Prophet ﷺ had completed the prayer at 2 units, So, which tells us it was likely a 4-unit prayer, with the possibility it may have been Maghrib, but likelihood 4-unit prayer. The Prophet ﷺ prayed 2 and completed at 2. And so he asked, has the prayer been shortened or have you forgotten? And فقال النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم, the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam then asked the other Sahaba, أصدق ذو اليدين, is he telling the truth? Is he correct? فقال الناس نعم, the people said yes. فقام رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم, the Prophet صلى الله عليه وسلم stood, and then he prayed the remaining 2 units. ثم سلم, then he gave salam. ثم كبر فسجد, then the Prophet صلى الله عليه وسلم said Allahu Akbar. After salam he said Allahu Akbar and did sajda like or similar in length to the sajdas of the prayer, of the rest of the prayer. Just so, in other words, same as normal sajda during the prayer. So, and it mentions 2 sajdas here. So the Prophet ﷺ did salam, ثم كبر فسجد, ثم كبر فسجد, then the Prophet ﷺ got out of that sajda, then said takbir and did a second sajda as well. It mentions both sajdas. So sajda sahab is 2 sajdas together. It's a set of 2 prostrations. And that's narrated by Imam Tirmidhi in his Sunan. Now that does give rise to a question, which is that what's the rule if, for example, you forget on your own, or if the Imam forgets, can you come back whenever you remember and just finish off with the units that you missed? And so this in particular, that's not the ruling that we follow in the Hanafi madhab. As long as you're in your place, and as long as you, after completing your prayer, even if you've said salam both ways, as long as you have not done anything that would invalidate your prayer, right? So you're still sitting there, although you've finished your prayer, you've said salam, but you're sitting there and you've not done anything that, if you were praying, would invalidate your prayer, like talking, and other such things, or getting up and walking away completely from the direction of the Qibla, and so on. If you've not done anything that doesn't invalidate your prayer and you're still sitting there and then you remember, yes, then stand up and carry on and finish off with Sajda Sahab. If, however, you've done something of that nature, then that prayer will need to be prayed again. You need to start afresh. So what about this hadith and a couple of other hadiths that are coming up? In one hadith it mentions the Prophet ﷺ went into his home and he was alerted, and then he came back into the masjid and finished off the prayer. So that can only be considered a khasa, something specific to the Prophet ﷺ. Right? In that, again, the basis of that could be said that it's the permanent connection with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and even the fact that even while sleeping, the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam's heart is awake and remembering Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So that's something just to be aware of. If, yes. I mean, again, that's not something, it's a form of dhikr of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, so on. It's not something that would invalidate the prayer as such. So as long as you're still, there in your position, you can still carry on from there. Yes, do you have a question?
You said about how it's specific to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam when they went home and then they'll come back. So what about the Sahaba that were reading behind them? How do
But obviously, the prayer of the Imam is the prayer of the Muqtadi, isn't it? So that principle still stands.
Right.
So another situation now, saying salam after 3 units. So it's supposed to be. So we looked at in case of doubt. We looked at having prayed additional units and so on. All those situations. Now a different situation, which is that finishing off after 3 units instead of 4. It's narrated that the Prophet ﷺ led the prayer on one occasion, and he said salam, but there's still 1 unit, 1 rak'ah remaining from the prayer. So a person came to the Prophet ﷺ and he said, he alerted the Prophet ﷺ, he said, you've forgotten in your prayer. And so the Prophet ﷺ returned, he came back to the masjid, he commanded Sayyidina Bilal radiallahu ta'ala to say iqama, فَصَلَّى لِلنَّاسِ رَكَعَةً, he led the people in prayer with just 1 unit, and so completed the prayer, that unit that was missed. And so the narrator, he says that people told me about this, but I told everybody about this incident, and people asked me, they said, do you know who that person was? The one who alerted the Prophet ﷺ, do you recognize him? And I said, no. But then I told them, I said, I have seen him around, and maybe he described that person to the others, and they recognized, they said, this is Talha bin Ubaidullah, very prominent Sahabi. So that's one narration. And another narration, Imran bin Hussein radiallahu, he says that the Prophet ﷺ prayed 3 units at Asr time. فَدَخَلَ مَنْزِلَهُ, then he went into his home. And so someone went to the Prophet ﷺ and he asked, he said, Ya Rasulullah ﷺ, have you forgotten the prayer in terms of the last unit? And so the Prophet ﷺ, فَخَرَجَ مُغْضِبًا, the Prophet ﷺ came back, he left his home, came back, and the Prophet ﷺ was angered or upset about this as well. He had his cloak wrapped around him, and he came and asked the people, he said, is he telling the truth? قالوا نعم, they all said yes. فقام فصلى تلك الركعة, the Prophet ﷺ stood up and then prayed that unit. ثم سلم, then he did salam, and ثم سجد سجدتيها, then he did 2 sajda of prostration. ثم سلم, then he did salam again. And that's narrated in Sunan al-Nasa'i. So we'll break there. Inshallah, we'll come back to pick it up from there in the next section.